Delta, no pictures till we're done talking.
I told her I was going to throw a zinger at you to be ready for the facial expression.
Okay, I got it.
Great, nice. Great. Your first question. Just documenting I was here, which probably is.
All right. Our first question is for Mr. Lockhart. And this question is, despite opposition by county commissioners, the Annapolis delegation recently represented special interests of the FOP to oppose collective bargaining with arbitration. Do you believe state delegates and senators were correct in imposing their will on local officials in this instance? And now that the Sheriff's Department has collective bargaining with non-binding arbitration, will you pursue the right to binding arbitration and the same kind of policy for other county employees?
That was very long.
I will repeat that if you would like.
That's okay. Good. It's getting late. With that, I would like to defer. I see Delegate Delaney James in the back. I'd like to see if she'd like to come up and answer that question. Yes, we did have some confusion over the FOP and I guess union, what was going on. As this commissioner and a long-time relative in Cecil County, or person who lives in Cecil County, I would have loved to have seen that question go to referendum. And I know that there's going to be some arguments we're going to have in the room. I think Mr. Sutton is here, and I think there are some tough decisions you make as commissioner, and this was in one of my closing remarks, and I figured it out, that sometimes it's not the decision that I believe in, it's the decision that the people have put you here for. So if I have to make a decision that I don't believe in my heart, I've figured it out, that you all have put us here in these positions to make a decision based on the majority of the people. And I wish we could have put that to a referendum question. To answer the second portion of your question, it has been legislated through Annapolis. We have already signed to recognize the FOP. We are proud to recognize the FOP. We look forward to working with the FOP. They're a great group of guys. And yes, if the other entities through the county government would like to entertain doing some form of a union, EMS has already done it. I guess that would leave the county employees to be determined, but that my final answer would have been I would love to have seen that be a referendum question, and then we could have decided that the true people of Cecil County, the total majority of people of Cecil County would have wanted it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dem, I'll pose the same question to you. Despite opposition by county commissioners, the Annapolis delegation recently represented special interests of the FOP to impose collective bargaining with arbitration. Do you believe state delegates and senators were correct in imposing their will on local officials in this instance, and now that the Sheriff's Department has collective bargaining with non-binding arbitration, will you pursue the right of binding arbitration in the same kind of policy for other county employees? Please explain your position in detail.
I thought that the delegation was not very cooperative with us and sitting with us, figuring out where we were going to go from the get-go. I didn't think that it was appropriate to propose a referendum. I supported non-binding arbitration, collective bargaining and non-binding arbitration from the beginning. I told the FOP president that when I first got in office and while I was running for office before. And I would have liked to see, the thing that I was most disappointed in is that the EMS workers weren't given the same level playing field. They were cooperative and proposed something that we agreed with, was a ground floor basic collective bargaining agreement. And that's the only thing that disappointed me, is that in the end they weren't given a level playing field. It's probably good that it didn't go to referendum on the end of the for the deputies that serve, because if it went to referendum and it didn't go the way they wanted it to go, you had to go back to referendum to get it to go the other way, and it probably would never happen. So with this, we can ease into the county being ready for a collective bargaining agreement somewhere down, or binding arbitration somewhere down the road in the future. We're able to go that path. I think if we get to the table directly with the FOP, they'll be happy with being able to negotiate with the county commission and the administration, that we have some very good tacticians and good administrators that we have. And once we get down to the table and negotiate directly with these labor groups, I think we can come up with some cooperative, open discussion to be able to move into the future with some agreements where all boats rise with the tide.
Thank you. And pass the mic to your right, please. Mr. Roberts.
You don't need to reread it. How much time do I have?
2 minutes.
2 minutes. First of all, the delegation in the county Board of Commissioners has to work together. We're not working as well as we do, but we should, but we have to work together. I was very disappointed, and I was in Annapolis and watched the testimony before hearings, and I will tell you it was an embarrassment to Cecil County to see the local government, and this is absolutely no casting aspirations at my colleagues who are sitting up here this evening. It was an embarrassment. The rest of the General Assembly felt that why can't we handle our own problems? And it was very obvious. I'll pick out that there are certain members of the delegation who work very well with the county government. That being said, teachers in Maryland have had the right to collectively bargain since 1968. It is not a mysterious or major issue. We come to the table every year, and there are 4 employee groups in the school system, and they negotiate every year. My question would be, why did the FOP feel they needed binding arbitration? There had to be some history or some substance to the fact that they didn't feel that non-binding would fulfill the bill. And with that, so you always have to dig deeper. What created the situation where they felt they needed to go the legislation route to get something? They feel they're not being treated, that they feel they didn't have the opportunities that they would otherwise. Now that goes both ways. Both parties have to come to the table and deal. I disagree totally with the referendum. When you're elected to office, you're elected to make the tough decisions. You make the decisions. If the populace doesn't agree with you, they can vote you out. But you don't put every decision on the backs of the citizens. You suck it up and you make the decision. Thank you.
Mr. Piner, would you like me to repeat the question for you?
No, I'll just get right into it. First of all, after being into government politics such as municipalities, Elkton has just went through that phase with arbitration, binding arbitration, collective bargaining. And some people question that. Put yourself in the police officer, the fire department, put yourself in their shoes. I came on probably 2 or 3 years when this phase was already put in. I'm an officer or a commissioner who believes in following up with what they say they want to do. As a 2-time town commissioner, this was put on the table. And me as representing the FOP or the police department, whatever, I stood behind it because that was my word. That was what we gave to the people who put on referendums for the town. Now, as far as for the county, yeah, I agree that with the FOP that we need better pay, we need better protection. If I were to lose my life and my family, what would I do and where would I leave them? That's what I guided myself with that. Now, to be honest with you, it's hard to say no to a process where people are putting their life on the line. Like I said, for other employees, other employees are going to come ask for the same thing, but can the county afford it? That's going to be the next question. Can they afford it, and what can we do to help give them the same thing? But what has already been done has been done for a purpose. The FOP came and they showed credibility of what they wanted. For the state delegates, they done what they thought they had to do. If I become a county commissioner, I want to work with the state delegates and be able to say I represent the FOP. And in closing, the same with education. That's my platform. Education, community involvement, transportation, and safety. I stand behind all of that.
Thank you. Mr. Lockhart, you have 1 minute to respond. Should you so choose.
No, Earl just did a commercial, so we're good. Let's move on to the next question.
All right, then, Mr. Tone, you have 1 minute to respond. Should you so choose.
You don't build a house from the top down. I felt that was what we needed to have everybody on a level playing field. Negotiation with labor unions is going to be new to the county, and I just felt that we were going all the way in the beginning, and that's why my compromise was non-binding arbitration. But the FOP wanted binding, and I worked for a metro area, and I did benefit for a short period of time when I was in the rank and file down there in Baltimore County from collective bargaining, not directly, but we had it. But we didn't get it right away. It was several years. It was just collective bargaining, no arbitration, and not binding arbitration. Far from that, didn't happen right away.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. You have 1 minute to respond, should you so choose.
I can see any employee feeling that if another group of employees got something that they didn't have, that they would like to explore the same opportunity. So I certainly think that it would be an obligation of county government to sit down with employee groups and make sure that they knew the process that was in place, and that employee group could determine whether the current process was satisfactory or whether they wanted to explore other processes. I've been involved in situations like that over 40 years. I was in public education, and we need to make sure that our employees feel valued, they feel important, and they feel needed. Thank you.
If you'll please pass the microphone to Mr. Kleiner, so that he can respond in 1 minute, should he so choose.
Thank you. You know, I started thinking to myself, if the open communication policy was in effect with employees and employers, we wouldn't have this issue about collective bargaining and binding arbitration. I remember when I came on the board as a town commissioner, the first thing I said, well, let's up the pay, $5,000 across the board. Everyone would have been happy with that. But instead, it seemed like the communication, well, you've got to follow the chain of command. When I get in office, I don't care who it is. If you have an issue or problem, and I'm there, come to me, I will address it, I will follow up with it, and I will come see you with the problem. If it's not resolved, I'll come back with you knowing that the problem's not resolved, and I'll still work on it. So you'll know that I mean what I say, and I'm a man that goes behind what he stands for.
Thank you. Mr. Tony, you